Cover Story. We're in conversation with Jay Panda. He's Vice President of the BJP, but also someone who's been a very familiar guest on Cover Story and Roundtable, and someone who I also regard as a thought leader, someone who's not just, in a partisan box, but someone who one would like to also bounce ideas, find out what is happening, about some of the current topics around us. So welcome, Jay, for this conversation, and good to have you back after a long spell.
Thank you, Priya. Good to be back.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to talk to you about the BJP. You just recently concluded your national executive, which was very high profile, and there was a lot, that has come out of it. The most interesting I found was Amit Shah's statement. He says, BJP is here for the next maybe 3-4 decades. One is not really disputing that, given the state of the opposition. But what kind of decade is the BJP going to be ushering in? It's one thing to be a political winner, but in terms of governance roadmap, what are you all? What do we look forward to?
I think Amit Shah ji was being conservative because just like we didn't come here overnight, it has taken decades of hard work to become the world's largest party with 180 million members. And the National Executive is just the apex showcase of what the party does. And, we work around the clock, 24/7, 365 days a year to build the party. We don't just turn up during elections. So I think it's going to be much more than 3 or 4 decades that the BJP is going to play a key role in governing India. So look, it's very clear. The party believes in a couple of fundamental principles. And one of them is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. And you can see that in the governance of the national government under Prime Minister Modi and the state governments run by the BJP, there is no discrimination whatsoever against any citizen. Everyone is treated equally. And similarly, the party has a belief that we believe in justice for all and appeasement of none. So these are some of the core beliefs, and that is what one should expect of a BJP-led governance for India.
But also, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, at a time when, you had 3 Muslim MPs in the Rajya Sabha, they've resigned, no Muslim MPs in the Lok Sabha. So out of 325 BJP MPs, there's not a single minority member of parliament. That doesn't send the right optics, does it, Jay?
Look, the BJP is not about optics. The BJP is about substantive development of India. And this goes to the core of the issue. We do not believe that any particular group must be represented and can only be represented by people of that group. Because, as I said, the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas philosophy applies. In governance, I dare anybody to point out any discrimination. Out of the literally hundreds of crores of Indian citizens who are impacted by government programs, you cannot find a single example of any discrimination. So that brings me back to the point. This whole idea that you must have some kind of numerical representation, that is what led to the partition of the nation. And that is what other parties that have been in government for decades have believed in, and has led to the kind of appeasement that has led to huge problems in the country. We believe in justice for all, not numerical balancing.
Nicely put. In fact, we are talking at a time when the mood in the country is also, there is a lot of Hindu-Muslim conversation going on in TV studios, outside TV studios, and a very polarized times. We've seen what's happening. So given that, I would also like to talk to you. You made a valid point about appeasement politics. So is that what is coming to a head now? I know that's what the BJP would also say, but there is a certain germ of truth in that at least what you are doing is not appeasement politics, but it is at the same time not antagonizing politics.
That's true. Again, I will just touch upon this once more, because the accusations that are made against us are not borne out by the kind of governance that we are providing. And you're absolutely right. There is an old ecosystem that is vested in the many decades of the kind of governance that India had and the kind of political parties that very openly pandered to appeasement politics. And you are seeing some of that today. And there are some elements in media, some sections in academia, some activist groups, not all, who try to fan those flames and try to portray that kind of a picture about the BJP. So I'm glad that we can have an open conversation about this and reflect all sides of the story.
Which is actually, because there's been a lot of, one doesn't want to flame the situation that is there, because we need an explainer. We don't just need accusations banding about. But, it's good to have someone from the BJP also explain that, whether it is triple talaq or even uniform civil code that is being talked about, that there are some steps that are being taken for, progressive steps, not just steps to divide.
This is a very important issue because terms like progressive, terms like secular, in India over the last many decades and since colonial times have been actually upended. They have been stood on their head. So I want to make a point that in India, often the BJP is accused of being communal, and some parties claim that they are secular, when it is actually quite the opposite, because secularism in India has come to be. The fundamental definition is that government controls the places of worship of the majority of the population. Now, this is not secularism. This comes from the 1857 War of Independence and the colonial need to control the places of worship of the majority population. But you go and tell people in the US or Germany or Japan or France that secularism means controlling the places of worship only of one religion, and that too of the majority religion, they'll laugh in your face. They'll say that this is ridiculous. So we must start from the root cause of the totally perverted definition of secularism. And the same thing about progressive. You just talked about progressive policies. Now, those who claim to be progressive have actually opposed reform in triple talaq. Now, the largest republic, the largest democracy in the history of humankind, cannot not have triple talaq reform, because every citizen has to be treated equally, not groups depending on their religion. Even Islamic countries had made that change, but so-called progressives had been opposing it. And even today, you will find so-called progressives either openly or silently finding different ways to oppose uniform civil code. That's not progressivism at all.
That's the question, Jay. It's because is it that there is a lack of trust with the BJP, or is it that some elements, I would say fringe elements, not someone from the government, but the statements that they make and these go unchecked, that is why there is this issue?
Look, they can't have their cake and eat it too. Either they have belief in our constitution and belief in democracy, or they don't. Now, if they have belief in the constitution and the democracy, then they cannot say that only if they are in power, then they are entitled to make changes and implement these progressive policies. They had 70 years. For most of these 70 years, these so-called political parties and these members of the ecosystem who support them had the opportunity to bring out these progressive policies, and they only did appeasement. Now, if you believe in the constitution, then you have to accept that today the BJP has been put in government by the people of India by perfectly legitimate means. And what we are actually trying to do is not some wild, crazy idea nowhere. A directive principle of the constitution recommended by Ambedkar ji and all the other writers of the constitution. So this hypocrisy has to be shown up for what it is.
Speaking of the constitution, is the BJP also planning to, make a move to drop words like secular and socialists? That's what I've heard some BJP leaders talking about.
Look, the point is, the BJP believes in the Constitution of India, and I would, through your show, urge your viewers to take a look at the BJP's own constitution. It's very admirable, and I think people who admire the Indian Constitution will also admire the BJP. His own constitution. Now, the reference that you made, these are changes that were brought into the constitution much later. They were brought in, just before the emergency. During the emergency, some of these changes were made. So constitutions can be amended depending on if you have the support of the majority of the people or not. Now, I don't want to speculate, but as of now, there is no such proposal on the table.
But what is on the table is, the BJP's plan to now, conquer the South. The recent Rajya Sabha seats have also been seen as a move in that direction. It is also said that Amit Shah has that unstated desire to beat Rajiv Gandhi's record of 400 plus seats. And to do that, you need to win the South. You need to win your state, Orissa. You need to, pick up a couple of states that the BJP hasn't yet got, West Bengal.
I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision and Home Minister's desire, both stated and unstated, is to continue this revival that is taking place of India, of economic strength, of ability to defend our borders, of ability to strike at those who would undermine our state through terrorism and many other things like that. As far as the politics goes, the BJP is today the largest party all over the world, largest party in India, in government in most of the states. So it is inevitable that we will form governments, and not just in the south, parts of the east are still left. Just 5-6 years ago, it used to be said that the BJP is only a North Indian party. It can never win in the Northeast. And today we are in government in the Northeast, across the Northeast.
And you are in charge of the Northeast also from the party. You've been given charge.
I'm in charge of Assam for the party. And it has been a privilege to work with the party in Assam, where, based on demographics alone, people used to write off the BJP. And even for the re-election last year, many people used to say that because this time, unlike in 2016, there was a coalition of opposition parties. Again, the BJP could not win because of demographics, but that was proven untrue. I think it is proven that the people have great faith in Prime Minister Modi, who has devoted more time to the Northeast than all his predecessors combined. And also they had the demonstrated experience of the BJP's Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas policies at work.
This Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, I keep hearing it, but then what do you blame for the toxic atmosphere that we are living in? We've seen what's happened. Someone is beheaded for supporting someone else's tweet. Someone makes a comment, who's a party spokesperson makes a comment about a religion. So, is it just social media, or is it something more that's contributing to this toxic environment?
Actually, I think that is one of the most relevant questions for the news cycle and the current relevant topics that are in debate in the country. So I think the reality is that the root cause of this goes down to one fundamental problem, that almost all the parties in India are dynastic parties. And we've seen their era has come to an end, and the last few remnants are struggling to keep themselves in power. BJP is just the opposite of that. The BJP is a party where somebody from humble origins, like Prime Minister Modi, has come to the top. And to see this example out the party, that this is a party that, and by the way, another slogan that we discuss in every party meeting in the BJP is nation first, party second, self last. No other party would either openly or any other way be in such. So I think there is a pushback from the dynastic parties who are gradually being pushed out of governments across the country. And there is an old ecosystem that is connected to them, that has vested interests, enjoyed benefits of our wealth, which is fighting back against this. So you mentioned beheadings and statements. Well, look, we must view this in different ways. If there are intemperate statements made by people associated with the BJP, we have made it very clear that the BJP does not stand by that. And
1 second, spokesmen have made it clear, party president, but nobody from the government has said that, has condemned Nupur Sharma.
That's not true. That's not true. It has been said so many different ways, because if it's a party person, then party will clarify. If it's a government person, will clarify. And in the particular case that we are referring to, the person has been suspended from the party and has apologized for the comments. So that's one side of things, right? We made it very clear that we are not, we are clearly justice for all, appeasement for none. But we are not going to be, we don't stand for negative comments about any particular religion or anything like that. On the other hand, you have an example where other people have also made similar statements in the reverse direction. And whenever any action is taken against them, that whole ecosystem reacts, saying that, oh, you're suppressing freedom of speech, etc., etc. And not only the ecosystem reacts, you have these behaviors. Let's make it very clear. This kind of behavior, going out and killing people, beheading people, threatening people, is absolutely unacceptable, simply unacceptable. And that is not going to be tolerated in the name of some fake secularism or in the name of some freedom of speech. That's not going to be tolerated. Our freedom of speech is defined in the Constitution, and the governance of the BJP is committed to stand by that as per the Constitution.
There is also a criticism doing the rounds, which I would, ask you since you're here to explain that. What does it say when a Nupur Sharma is not arrested, but that alt news guy is arrested, who also happens to be a Muslim? So again, there is that narrative being built up. Actions like this also. Now of course we are told that there were other reasons why he was arrested, not just that post of his, but but the narrative that is being built up is iske saath hua aur usko saath chhod diya gaya.
It's exactly what you have said. It is a narrative that is being built up. Now,
are you lending yourself to it?
But let me explain, Devika. So what I think has happened is there are clear differences in at least these two cases that you're talking about. When one person has apologized and has tried to douse the flames, and the party has taken steps to ensure that we do not give any signals that this is being supported. So it's not going to lead to any violence. It has not led to any violence on this side. On the other hand, the person who has been arrested has not distanced himself from the claims, has not apologized, and the ecosystem are making false claims about freedom of speech when clearly, as per the Constitution's definition of freedom of speech, it was violated. And look, the point is, using freedom of speech, people are indulging in foreign currency violations. People are indulging in donations from Pakistan, from Syria. That's not acceptable. And when in clear violation of the rules and the laws of the land, let's be very clear that there is an ecosystem which is trying to conflate freedom of speech and the real criminal violations of the law, which should be distinguished.
I'm going to take a break, but keep this conversation going with Jay Panda. So stay with us, don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Cover Story. We are in conversation with BJP leader and Vice President Jay Panda. Jay, before the break, it was quite interesting to have someone actually, talk about things that actually end up into shouting matches on TV debates. So I'm glad we're doing it in this format where, one can have an explanatory conversation. But is that a very simplistic answer that there's an old ecosystem that is not in power anymore, so it is reacting and building narratives against the government?
Sometimes the answers are very simple, actually. There's no need to complicate the situation.
Okay.
Some people are trying to complicate it and try to mislead people. It is a reality that some persons have been arrested and they have got foreign currency violations and they have got donations from areas that are of serious concern. So, these are just facts. Now, it is also, everything I've said is a fact. When I've said that the BJP has distanced itself from people associated with us who have made intemperate statements, it's a fact. When I've said that these people have apologized and have tried to calm down the agitation, it's a fact. When I've said the other side is not apologizing, they are in fact trying to conflate freedom of speech with foreign currency violations, as well as their supporters going out and killing people, beheading people. These are all facts. So I don't think, there's an old saying, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it is a duck.
On that note, back to BJP's plans for the, it also, I saw Prime Minister saying Sneh Yatra Nikalo, and he even said that, we should reach out to the backwards Pasmanda Muslims. So there is the BJP also reinventing itself from the Brahmin Banya party to one of, OBCs who's, there's a lot of socialism in Prime Minister Modi's politics, which was not there when he was Chief Minister. So there is a reinvention of the party happening.
The world's largest party with 180 million members doesn't get to be that way by being focused on only certain sections of the population. The BJP is a party for all sections of society. And I think it's unfair to have called it a Brahmin Banya party. It may have been the origins that many of the founders may have been of that social background. But, for a very long time, the BJP's own constitution makes it extremely clear. And it goes back to at least 1980 when the BJP was formed, not to mention the earlier iterations in the 1950s. So the reality is we have always aspired to represent all Indians. and we have done so, and our governance shows that. So when the Prime Minister talks about what you just mentioned, Sneha and all this, it's absolutely in line with what he's been saying all along, because the Prime Minister has been incessantly talking about governance, development for all Indians, not just for Indians. He in his early attempts to try to patch up with even Pakistan before they behaved very badly, he said that let us forget about everything else, talk about poverty together. So these are our beliefs. In terms of the activities that the party will do, where the Prime Minister made many valuable suggestions at the National Executive, yes, we will be reaching out. By the way, this is not a new thing again. Now, please note that in the elections just a few months ago, we have registered a noticeable increase in the voting pattern among those sections of society which didn't used to vote for us in the past. In Assam, we have seen the same thing. In Assam, for example, after winning the state elections last year, we've had municipality elections, we've had urban elections, and even in areas which are dominated by demographics which don't usually vote for the BJP, we have started winning for the first time coming into government. In the Northeast, we have started winning local elections where the demographics are very different from the rest of India. So yes, quite clearly, the BJP is a party for all, of all.
The BJP, two issues I take with you on that. One is, the middle class has always felt discriminated against, and you and I have had a lot of conversations on that earlier also. Either the BJP is going for the very poor, or there are, accusations that it's also ascribing to the very rich. But the middle class, the salaried class is the one that is paying the burden. And my second question to you is that the BJP again said that Modi said, "हम जातिवाद और परिवारवाद को खत्म करेंगे." परिवारवाद तो ठीक है, I can see you doing that. But Jativad, when you announce the president, you also say she's OBC tribal. Then in the UP also, Jativad is something that's going to take a while for the BJP to do away with.
But we have been doing it. So again, I will give you the example that take, for example, again, Uttar Pradesh, which is the country's largest state and has been dominated excessively by Jativad politics, caste politics. Now, yes, caste politics are not going to go away overnight, but you can see that in several election cycles, now going back from 2014, 2017, 2019, 2022, you can see that the hugely positive results that the BJP has been getting is precisely on a campaign platform that we are not going to be catering to any particular caste groups. We are there for all Indians. And you're beginning to see that parties which are based entirely on caste groupings have been losing support. Their voters have been gradually moving away towards us, especially the youth who are aspirational and who are inspired by Prime Minister Modi's vision that all Indians must be viewed as the same. Now, when it comes to the middle class,
okay, one objection here. But this is also a government that releases a cabinet list with the caste of the ministers. I've not seen that happen ever.
No, so there is nothing wrong in showing that castes which had been ignored and neglected for a long time are actually finding their political voice. There's nothing wrong in that. Now, the point is this. You asked about the middle class. So I've spoken about the caste issues. Now you asked about the middle class. Now in the past, the middle class time, because governments were there who talked about poverty alleviation, and after decades of of those slogans, you did not see very much poverty alleviation at all. Middle class remained small. They remained at the mercy of the government, and the vast poor masses were in dire straits. The BJP's philosophy is quite clear, and Prime Minister Modi has articulated it several times. We don't aim to alleviate poverty. We aim to eliminate poverty. And so recently, the IMF has pointed out that India has eliminated extreme poverty. This is a major milestone. We haven't eliminated all poverty, but we have eliminated extreme poverty. So there are still steps that need to be taken to ensure that the poorest of our population don't drop off a cliff. So for example, Ayushman Bharat, it's the world's largest health insurance program. It provides a safety net. People, for example, from my state, Odisha, who used to go to bonded labor just to overcome surgeon expenses for medical reasons are now, they have an option not to go into that kind of a situation. Now, as far as the middle class is concerned, the reality is that to grow the class, to make their lives better, to improve their standard of living, you have to have growth. And you have had the highest growth now continuously. India is now the fastest growing large economy. It is being complemented around the world, who is looking to India as a growth engine. So that has not happened accidentally. The commitment to making GST happen. Remember 5 years ago, how many people opposed GST? Today it does, because you will see its success. The massive investment in infrastructure, so many other changes. These are all going to benefit the middle class, which they already are. Now, some of the problems are not within India's control because of conflict in Europe, because of petroleum prices, but those also the country has tackled much better than most other countries.
Before I let you go, Jay, I remember now we used to do a lot of debates on GST and demonetization, and even though you weren't a member of the BJP, you were supporting it then also. So you've been pretty consistent in your beliefs. Just one final question is, how is life in the BJP as compared to your old party?
It's wonderful because, my old party was founded with the support of the BJP, and from day one for 11 years, they had worked together. As long as that was the case, with Atal Bihari Ji's guidance and Advani Ji's guidance, my old party also had believed in a standard of governance which was emulated. But that changed. And the big difference, of course, is that this is a democratic party. And as I said, there are almost no other parties in the country which are democratic. And this is a real pleasure to be working under party president JP Nadda. He's somebody who's worked his way up. He's not a silver spoon in politics, unlike most other parties. So it's real, and unlike the image that is portrayed out there, there is real inner party democracy. We can voice our opinions. We all are have responsibilities. It's not just about appeasing one family and doing your politics based on that.
Which we cannot say for most of the other parties in India. But thank you so much, Jay, for this conversation, and look forward to many more with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Look forward.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.